Marriage is sweet, but not always refined.
We are here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in marriage, and we're definitely going to laugh along the way.
Because after all, marriage doesn't have to suck.
That's right.
I'm August.
And I'm Ashleigh.
And this is the Raw Sugar Podcast. Somebody who was an incredible influence on us and got us to the point where we were mentally prepared to, no matter what, we're going to do better with our finances. We're going to attack our personal demons, and we're going to have more money at the end of the month and actually have a retirement, was Dave Ramsey. And so love him, hate him, whatever your opinion is on him, two things that he is absolutely incredible at are helping you to live within your means. Mm-hmm. He is incredible at getting just like kind of like a no BS kind of a situation where you're making excuses and this and that. He is fantastic at cutting through all the BS and helping you, give you like a hard talk, you know, and like, man, okay, this is right. This is just what I needed. And he's also incredible at helping you get out of debt. Getting strategies on getting out of debt. And there were some pretty drastic things that we did when we really got serious about our finances. There's some pretty drastic things that we did.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So when I met August, he was driving this really nice black Cadillac that was my dad's dream car. Literally, it was my dad's dream car.
Man, that car was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Like when we first started dating, all my friends were like, dang, and he's a nice car too. And I'm like, yeah,
he liked us.
Shortly after we started dating, he tells me that he's going through the Dave Ramsey course and explains to me what that means, because I didn't even know about Dave Ramsey at that point. He explained to me, you know, he's just trying to get out of debt. And he's like, so this car is beautiful, but once the lease is done...
Yeah, it was a lease, everybody. It was a lease. It wasn't mine.
He's like, once the lease is done, I'm going to be buying, you know, like $1,000 car. And I was like, okay. I mean, okay.
It's quite a downgrade.
Yeah, so when we got married... It was right after, shortly.
It was before we got married.
Right before we got married, we bought this car from some friends. We seem to love buying our friends' cars.
Yeah, because if something goes wrong with it, we know where they live. That's why we buy cars from friends.
No,
Speaking of which, do you have a car you'd like to sell us?
So we bought this old car from a friend for $1,000. It was our $1,000 car.
What was it? What was it? Olds 88? Is that what it is?
I literally don't know, because we called it the USS Poseidon. Literally have no idea what the car was, because that's what we called it. It was
a boat.
Okay?
It's the hugest car.
And August was so proud of that car.
Mm-hmm. Because it was paid for, and that was the goal in getting. So once the lease expired, the goal was to have no debt, and I eliminated that big monthly payment.
Yeah,
we spent $1,000 on it, and the goal was to have $1,000 car that had a good engine. It didn't look like anything, but it was something that I was not going to have to put any money into for a year while we saved up and paid
for
cash
our second car.
For a better car, a car that was going to last longer. And I'll tell you what, that car...
It was good to us.
It was really good to us. We did not have to do one thing to it.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, I went from driving such a very comfortable car that looked great. I cannot tell you how many times I got pulled over in that thing. Because, and it really, I started to have a little bit of like PTSD because I had a horrible interaction with a police officer. It was absolutely horrible. And my friend Evan was in the car, and he can witness that. He witnessed.
That was right before. It was the day before our wedding?
Yeah, I was picking him
Yeah.
up from the airport because he was coming to our wedding. And a police officer and I had our exchange of words with one another. Let's just put it that way. And anyways, long story short, I got pulled over in that thing all the time. I did not expect that. So that was interesting.
It was a comfortable car, though.
Yeah, but then...
And then when you made a turn, it kind of like rocked. Like, sway back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good car, though. It's a good car.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
I had my dream watch. Oh, this one.
Yeah, that was another thing. So he had his...
This one was a
He drove
sacrifice.
his black Cadillac, and he wore his blue and gold, was it? Blue and gold Rolex.
Yes, I had. It was my absolute dream watch. It was on my wrist. I owned it. A lifetime watch.
Yeah.
I had a Rolex Submariner, steel and gold, blue dial. Oh my goodness, that thing was beautiful. It still is my dream watch. However, it was out of balance in my life.
Yeah.
It was something, so one of the things that we didn't tell you is that I had a lot of nice things. I made okay money as a single man, but I was spending every dollar that I was making. And I remember sitting down with my CPA, he's doing my taxes, and he said, August, you're doing great. Man, you're a young single guy. Man, just keep up the good work. You're doing incredible. And I'm thinking to myself, if I miss one paycheck, I'm done. Like, I'm literally spending every dollar I make on custom suits, car, watch, whatever it is.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things. And so when I started to learn about finances, that was my moment of saying, man, I really have to confront these challenges in my life because neither of us were raised in an environment where we had a lot of nice things. We both came from homes that were literally paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I grew up in a family where we had nice things, but we definitely couldn't afford the nice things.
yeah, it was still paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, it was very much paycheck to paycheck. Yeah.
So even though I had nice things, I was paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
So,
and again, I'll reiterate. So he goes through his budget and realizes he needs to reevaluate things in his life, like where, things have, you hear the saying, things have a time and a place. Yeah. And that is kind of where we were at. Like, the Rolex will have a time and a place, but that time in our life when we were just getting married and literally had no money.
Yeah.
And couldn't really even afford to have a wedding. And
how are you going to be wearing a $13,000 wristwatch?
Yeah.
And you don't have $200 in your bank account?
Yeah.
That's the point we're trying to make
place.
here. Yeah. Time and a place.
Yeah.
So that watch is definitely something that I want to have again in the future. Maybe an anniversary gift or something, baby. However, it's going to be in the right time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a struggle to buy that watch. It's going to be in abundance. It's going to be everything is already set, and we can afford a watch like that.
Yeah.
So that time is not right now. That's going to be sometime in the future.
Yeah.
But we're making steps now with budgeting, with communicating, with doing our finances so that we will be able to do that at some point. Because I know one thing, and this is something that my wife and we have talked about, oh my God, I mean, thousands of times in our marriage, is that we don't want to make the same, I don't want to say mistakes, because we both had great parents. They meant well. However, both my parents, unfortunately they're gone. They died broke.
Yeah.
When they died, they were absolutely broke. And we want to leave a legacy. We want to leave an inheritance for our kids and our grandkids. And sacrificing now, and not even sacrificing. I wouldn't even say we're not living in lack, you know?
Reprioritizing your life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, speaking again with the Rolex, it's when the time comes that we purchase his Rolex, we're going to be so much more proud of it because
that's a good point.
We're in the place in life where we can actually afford it and enjoy it at its fullest capacity. Like, we'll be able to take care of it the way that it should be taken care. It's like the same thing, like having a home. Like, we talk about this all the time. We obviously want a home. Like, it's actually one of my biggest frustrations that my kids don't have a yard currently. But the reality is, if we owned right now, we want to own a home that we can afford to keep up
and maintain.
Like, to maintain the yard, like all the things, which it's not like we can't afford a home right now, but it's also like what home, like what large or small.
Yeah, and
like,
you don't just want to like
big yard. Does it have, it's like whatever you have in that season of life, make sure that it fits. Like, it makes sense with where you're at. Because if it doesn't and it's out of place, you're not going to enjoy it as much. Because the reality is you're going to be like, oh, I have this big, beautiful thing.
You're all stressed out.
But man, I like have to work my ASS off to like pay for that one thing. And then therefore you're not enjoying it, or you just don't get to, like keep up with it. You don't get to maintain it.
In closing, we're going to talk about some tips that we have implemented to help us budget, to help us hone in on our budget, get better at budgeting, and also know this is going to be a process for you, and that's okay. It's a process for everybody. I can't stress it enough. It's painful up front, but it's totally worth it. So what are some of the tips that we have implemented to help us, especially at the beginning stages of budgeting?
So when we first got married, we were really married to our cash envelopes. We wrote everything down, and Dave Ramsey talks about this a lot. We wrote everything down, and we had an envelope allotted to, like if you get your hair done once every couple months, there's a certain amount of money that goes into that envelope, and you don't dip into anything else, and you have a grocery envelope and all of that. So we were really married to that. However, I will say that when I stopped working because we had kids, and August started working in the food industry, the cash envelope system no longer worked for us because we really didn't know what money was coming in. Like, there wasn't a solid amount.
It was fluctuated so much.
Yeah, so it's really kind of difficult to do a cash envelope system if you don't have a solid amount coming in every single time. So I would even suggest, we actually haven't even purchased this yet. I just found out about it. There's a planner that's called, it's like a budget by paycheck planner. And you can budget out with every paycheck that you get, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't even know if I told you about that, but it's cool.
No, but one of the things I know for us, the way the cash envelopes can still work are for the extras. Like, for instance, we've been talking about Starbucks. If you're doing your budget and you say, okay, and this is a great way to just only amount, there's literally no way you could go over it, is to put that amount in an envelope. And every time you go to Starbucks, you're paying with cash. And then once that's out, that's it.
Yeah.
So having the discipline to adhere to that is another thing, but that's one way you could do it, where you don't have to always do it for the groceries or, every aspect for gas and everything. But if you can do it for like the extras or your clothing budget or something like that, or maybe even going out to eat, that might be a nice way to implement that. One thing that we do is we actually write a wish list. And this is something we started doing at the beginning of the year. It was probably about 4 months ago. And I got to say, this has worked out really, really well for us. So when we think of, it could be anything that we're thinking that we want, big or small or need, we actually write it. It's right by our door on a chalkboard. We actually write what we want on our wish list. So so there's two ways we could go about that. We could either, if it's a small enough expense that we can fit it into the budget, we buy it, within that week that we write it down, or it's something that we can save for throughout the year, or we can have a list of things that when we get our tax return, we can take care of it with the tax return. And so we were able to get a few things that were on our wish list from our tax return that we had, and it was seamless, and it was like a really
worked out.
Yeah, really, it's a really nice program. So if you're doing if you're doing your budget together with your spouse, think about implementing a wish list that you see on a regular basis and that you guys update.
And just to give you an idea, like one of our smaller items on there is the Godfather trilogy.
Oh yeah. I put on that I wanted I love the Godfather, and so there's obviously the trilogy.
Yeah, and what's our largest item on there, on the wish list?
On a home.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And it's fun because every time we walk out the door, you see it. So you're kind of like. And obviously, I wrote home in really big, massive letters, so you really can't miss it. But,
so just continually
just something to dream over.
Yeah.
Every time you walk out the door.
Exactly.
The last tip that we have is probably one of my favorites because it's also probably really controversial, right? Purchase approval.
Purchase approval. What does that mean, babe? What does purchase approval
So purchase
mean?
approval means I want to buy an e-course. If I want to buy an e-course, I'm going to call August and I'm going to say, "Hey babe, like, would you mind? There's this e-course that I really want. It's X amount of dollars. What do you think?" If he gives me the thumbs up, I'm like, "Okay, great. I'm going to purchase it." If he's like,
if there's that hesitation,
then that means probably not.
Maybe not now.
I wanted to put this in here as one of our tips because it's one of the things that I get asked most about.
Yeah.
We do not control each other. Okay? Like, I think when people think of purchase approval, they think of control. And that is not at all what this is. This is, once again, doing your budget together.
Communication.
This is communication. This is like anything over $50, I am not comfortable with spending unless he knows that I'm purchasing it. Like, this eliminates the, oh, hey, what's this $100 for? What's $100 for Amazon? What was that for? Oh, that was for some random, like, whatever. And then he's like, did we actually need that right now, though? Like, and then,
that's where
the argument starts, right? Yeah. Or the argument doesn't start right then, but frustration is built up. Yeah. And then again, and then again, and then again. And then eventually it just becomes one big thing. You're irresponsible and like you're always just buying things and I don't know, So I just have a rule for myself and for you. It doesn't have to be $50. But for me, my comfort zone, my personal comfort zone, we haven't even talked about what the limit is. But for me, I've just capped it at $50. If it's over $50, I want August to know, this is what I want to buy. Are you cool with it? Because then if he looks at the bank account, and, you know, vice versa, if I look at the bank account and I see a certain, you know, like something that he spent, I'm like, oh yeah, he told me about that. Cool.
Done.
No need for a conversation because we already communicated. This is what I want. It's done.
Which brings us into our last point of that. There's something that we really just want to drive home is that you are doing this with your spouse together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so vital that you guys do this together. Because it is going to bring you closer. It's going to foster more intimacy. Mm-hmm. It's going to foster transparency.
Yeah.
And it's going to foster trust.
Yeah.
So important. Obviously, these are pillars of your relationship. Mm-hmm. If you don't trust your spouse, that's a hard place to be in. So work on your finances together. Yeah. Budget together. Find your groove. Find what works best for you, mm-hmm. and just run with it. And you guys, and I know that you will see your relationship, your intimacy, your trust. It's going to go to the next level. Yeah, and that's what we want to see.
I even want to say too, just throw this out there. In the very beginning, we talked about how we're a do it together. You know, like we do our budget together. However, if you are that couple where, like you're like me and you hate math and like you're not good at it, it's not your strong point, but maybe your husband is, and in our marriage that's how it is. August is way stronger in finances than I am.
Thank you, baby. I appreciate that.
So he handles the majority of our finances, but I'm still in that conversation.
Yeah.
So we're still doing it together. I know what's going in. I know what's coming out. I know what bills we have. I may not be like in, you know, my hands are all in it with the exception of insurance because that's my strong point.
For sure.
But you want to, you know, divvy out who is stronger in this area. But that doesn't mean that one person has all of the responsibility.
That's a good point.
You're still doing it together. Even when one person is more doing it, you still are making the decisions together. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I think we did it. I think we...
Oh my gosh, you guys, you made it to the end of a finance talk.
Congratulations.
OMG. If we could send you a certificate, we would. You've just passed the Coryell Financial Advice.
Woo!
I don't know.
Cheers to you. All right, we'll see.
With that.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching today. If you want to see healthier, thriving marriages like we do, please like, subscribe, and share. Catch you in the next episode on the Raw Sugar Podcast.